Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unboxed. I'm so glad that you're joining us today. We're talking about leaders and understanding your family history, how this builds up your leadership. And I really want to ask the question, how well do you know your family history? What is your family history? And how does this impact the way that you have relationships on your job, the way that you relate to your coworkers, your team, your subordinates, your board, your colleagues, whoever else it may be. How does that all relate together? Listen, we got a whole lot to cover today, so make sure that you stick around, like, subscribe, and share, and let's go ahead and unbox the power and the potential of these dynamic relationships. I'm Dr. Robert Davis, family life educator and relationship coach, and welcome to Unboxed, a frank and straightforward conversation about relationships. We're going to talk about family, church, workplace, and all other types of relationships. Join me for the next few moments as we unbox the power and potential of relationships and help you to live your best life. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unboxed. Again, I'm your host, Dr. Robert Davis. I'm so glad that you've joined us. Make sure that you hit that like, subscribe, and share button. Get the notifications of when we're going live so you can get all this information. You can also check us out on our podcast. Got a lot of various platforms that we want to connect with you on. Okay, so I've been talking to you about the fact that leaders need to really know their family history. And I gave you a series of questions yesterday. I'm going to run through them. What is the story of how your parents and grandparents met? I gave you several questions. I put up there on the screen. You can pause them. I'm going to throw up the next ones. We went through 6 questions yesterday, and I want to pick up right there because one of the things that we recognize is that our family history pre-programs us for how we relate in every other relationship, because of course that's the primary relationship. So the way that we relate to our mother, father, siblings, the messages that they sent us about how relationships are supposed to function and operate, all those things really do have a heavy influence on how we relate in all other relationships. And so as I shared before, let's call it our emotional computer, and understanding how our emotional computer is programmed. One of the great ways, and I'll tell you there's 3 of them, but I'm only going to talk about one today, these last 2 days. The one that we've been looking at yesterday and now today is, how well do I know my family history? You will be surprised at how much you will learn about how you function in relationships when you understand your family history. I know it's crazy, but light bulbs go off. Just having that conversation yesterday with my aunt, my mother, my uncle, and my father all together, he put together a whole lot of missing pieces. And like, okay, I get it. I see why I do what I do the way that I do it. And so I want you to have that same epiphany and to have that same understanding, because it doesn't make sense to try to improve relationships with our coworkers, our boards, our superiors, our subordinates, our colleagues, if we're not improving relationships with our primary, the place where we got it, where it all started, which is our family of origin. And of course, we want to work on our home relationships. So one of the things we need to do is to write out our family tree and then begin to answer a series of questions about our family history. I just put on the screen. You can go back and see them again. I just put on the screen those questions from yesterday. Now I want to share with you some additional questions. You're going to get 13 in all. Let's pick up at question number 7. And so I've listed out all of my family tree going 3 generations. That's, of course, I'm generation number 1. Above me are my mother, my father, all my aunts and uncles. Above them are my grandparents and all my great aunts and uncles. Got it. Okay, so once I got all the information written out, here I go. Number 7, identify members who suffer with emotional or mental illness, and what circumstances trigger episodes of hospitalizations. Question number 8, what events had the greatest impact on shaping your family? I probably should have highlighted this one even more. This is a very important question. What events had the greatest impact on shaping your family? As I told you before, my grandfather's grandfather was a slave. His name was Joseph. I just found that out yesterday. His wife's name was Hattie. And so you can imagine that being a slave, and there's rumors, we're still doing additional research, but there's rumors that several family members were able to escape to freedom. and that Joseph would have been left, Grandpa Joseph would have been left, on the plantation. So this is a pretty major thing. My grandfather fighting in World War One was a very major event. My great grandfather, John C. Davis Sr., him getting my great grandmother dying, and then him remarrying the only great grandmother I knew, which was Grandma Lizzie. These are major events that shaped, because he had 2 children with his first wife, my grandfather and my Aunt Doris, and then he had 8 children by his second wife. And so, these are major events. I want you to think about what events have the greatest impact on shaping your family. Number 9, identify major stressors and how your immediate and extended family organize resources to address those stressors. Every family, and that's why I told you sometimes we need to separate adversity from trauma. But every family has had adversity. Every family has had traumatic events. And I want you to think about what those stressors were, those events that have really, put stress on your family. It may be a recurring event. It may be once, a one-time deal. And then I want you to think about how your family organized its resources, financial resources, educational resources, emotional resources, spiritual resources. How do they organize those resources to address those stressors? Because you're here. So that means that your family has some real strong characteristics. The fact that you are here today means that your family did have some resources. And I know sometimes people think that their family is just the most dysfunctional in the world. But this exercise right here is going to actually show you that your family has a serious level of resiliency in it. All right, number 10. Observing each generation, and I gave you those 3 generations, how does the family emotionally respond to stressful situation, anxiety, and conflict? Is your family cut off, stop speaking to each other? Do they all really rally and kind of get up underneath each other? How do they respond to these stressful, anxious, and conflictual circumstances and situations? All right, let me move on. Number 11, time is getting away. Wow, there's some good stuff. Number 11, what are the most stressful or hostile family relationships? For some reason, I have an aunt and uncle who just can't stand each other. Man, they're always fussing and fighting. I have two cousins who hate each other, or whatever it may be. I want you to look back on that and look across your family and say, what are the most stressful or hostile family relationships? And of course, once you do that, you'll begin thinking, why can't they get along? All right, number 12, are there any family members that have cut off from the family or were cut off for any significant period of time? What were the circumstances around their cutoff? And by cutoff, that just means basically they walked away from the family. They didn't have anything to do. There's distancing where some people will still be a part of the family, but they'll kind of have their own space. And then they're just family members that are like, man, we had an uncle who moved away and nobody ever saw him again. I heard that he started a family. Or, you have family members, man, that go years without anybody seeing or hearing from them. That's a sign of what we call emotional cutoff. And so, think about family members that have done that have cut off from the other family for any significant period of time. And then what were the circumstances around their cutoff? I think about some of my family members who have died, and then other family members, their children, and others kind of just, cut everybody loose. You say, wow, how is it that death? And you kind of thinking through, as I think about my family, how does death impact the way we interact with each other? And it may not be that, it may be something else, but just to think about that. And hopefully you come from a family that there is no cutoff, that, hey, we don't do that. No matter what goes on, we stick together. Last one, this is number 13. Who has been the strongest personality or the backbone for each generation? And, as I think about that, of course, in my family, my grandfather was the patriarch. He was the patriarch of our family. I understand Grandma Lizzie was the matriarch of our family. I think about my Aunt Hattie, who is a very strong matriarch, kind of the glue for our family. You go through each generation, you can kind of see the ones that bind the family together, have the strongest personalities, really are the backbone for each generation. And I want you to, to really think about who they are and begin to write that down. Again, as I shared with you, this is going to help you to really understand how your family's history and how the emotions in your family kind of flow and whatnot. Boy, I said an awful lot today. I'm glad that you stuck around. I want to encourage you to do this wonderful family work, because great leaders spend time really researching their family, not just researching their organization, but researching their family. Glad that you joined us. I look forward to seeing you again the next time as we unbox the potential of your leadership, the potential of all relationships. Take care.
Seasoned with Grace, Unboxed also provides healthy relationship training and leadership development for businesses, churches, and community organizations. For a free consultation to discuss your team's needs, please contact us at our website at swg-unboxed.org. That's swg-unboxed.org.